Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second podcast episode of Talk of History. Today, we're going to talk about something that I wanted to talk about for a while now: the trade routes and the international trade of the world beginning in early history. So, trade involves the transfer of goods or services from one person or entity to another, often in exchange for money. A network that allows trade is called a market. So in ancient times, like in prehistoric times, trade would be trade of exactly any good to any good, without any like money in between. Nothing in between. Just person to person trading goods like gold for silver or things like that. Now that became much harder because you didn't have a form of knowing how much something was worth. You just trade it and hope the person would accept. So in ancient times, which was very different, and with the invention of money in later, one side of the barter started to involve precious metals, which gained symbolic as well as practical importance. Modern traders generally negotiate through a medium of exchange, such as money. As a result, so like a medium of exchange, something in the middle that you exchange for goods. So people generally accept what something is worth and trade it for that good or that service. So if someone thinks that whatever it is worth the amount of money that you're giving, you you will be able to sell that object or buy that object that you're looking to buy with the amount of money that you have. So this is much easier because then everyone has an accepted form of currency that sort of acts as a medium, so you don't have to base what you're selling on if the person wants it or not, because everyone wants money. So if you're selling something, you'll get money, and if you're not, then that person will get, and if you're buying, that person will get money. So either way, people will always want it because you have the money as a reward, and everyone wants money or objects to get money. So that's why it makes it much easier, and it makes it much less on the opinion of the person and more on what it's worth. But that's not, I mean, that is what we're going to talk about through this entire time. So it's much more like philosophical and currency and economical, and much less about actual history. So today we're talking about much more about philosophy than actual history. For example, trade originated with human communication in prehistoric times. Trading was the main facility of prehistoric people who bartered goods and services from each other before the innovation of modern day currency. Peter Watson dates the history of long distance commerce from circa 150,000 years ago. So, trade routes since the dawn of history, since the dawn of recorded history, have been of the utmost importance because they allow not only the flow of ideas, but also the flow of goods, the flow of people, the flow of pretty much anything from place to place, through through with riches and other goods from other places with it. Some of the most famous known trade routes are, let's start with the Roman trade network. The Roman trade network was humongous, almost as big as the Roman Empire itself. As you can see, it stretched through all of its empire, really. I mean, as you can see, there's gold, pigs, grapes, uh, oak, iron, tin, silver, copper, and it goes, there's internal trade routes are the orange, and external trade routes are the blue. So external is going from inside to outside or outside to inside. Orange is going from inside to inside, and the red is the border of Rome and its vassals, and blue is the light blue is the Germanic nations, and green is Iranian nations, and black is minor nations. Um, so there's like a trade, an easy trade route because of the humongousness of the Roman Empire itself, and its humongous infrastructure and its humongous amounts of people that are there. It gives a sort of, it allows a sort of much larger scale of trade than if it was multiple other countries, because multiple other countries, a lot less people would want to trade, because there's, if you have a large country with many resources, it's much easier to trade inside that country than to trade from inside to outside a country, because inside a country all you have to do is pay taxes once, and then you go through, and then that's it. If you go outside a country, you need to transport it to outside that country, and it's not it's not fun. It's like it costs more. It has less benefits than trading inside a country, except you might get something that back inside the country they don't have, so you could take the goods and bring them back and sell them for a higher price, because you don't, because people there don't have it, so they want it more. It's also a change of price, so there are good sides and bad sides to having to trading inside and outside a country. So what this does is it creates it creates um it creates a better infrastructure if it's trade inside a country, and it helps both the merchants and both countries if it's inside and outside a country. So what I'm saying is that the Roman trade network in 180 AD, as it says on the map, is much larger than any trade network inside a country that we've had since, because this is the largest country ever. So, at least the largest empire ever. So, people who, I know there's only one person left, what do you think? Do you think it was a good idea to have such a large empire and have trade within it, or do you think it was a bad idea and that it somewhat caused the destruction of the Roman Empire? Yeah, just answer that once you get to it. Next, I'm going to show the current modern trade route, a map of the current amount of modern trade routes. Yellow means that there's a lot of them, so all the yellow lines mean that there's at least more than 1,000 trips per day. I don't know if it's per year or per day. And red means there's not that many, but still, there's not that much dark red. I mean, as you can see, it's much larger, even just here through the sea. This is just through the sea, so it's much larger here, even through the sea, than it was before, than it was in the time of the Roman Empire. So again, you have to think, like, now you can see the evolution of then to now. Like, look, then, sure, this is just in one concentrated area, but even just here, just look at the European area. Here you could see in the ocean, there's not that many, but then you go here, and you had this many, just even right here, it's almost fully colored. You see the difference between now and then, probably because now there's many more ships and transport vehicles and airplanes that can go through from country to country, so it makes it much less costly than it did before to go from country to country and to go through the ocean, because the ocean before took also a long time, and it would be much easier to trade like that than to trade in any other way. So yeah, there's that as well. The next thing I wanted to show was, what is There's no image. Alright, so let's just... Wait. Is this it? Alright, guess not. Alright, whatever. So, let's just keep talking about this. So there's that. That's the current modern form of trade. And as you can see, it's much larger and it's much more concentrated than the comparison to what it was before. Even just in the Atlantic, I mean, sure, like that's not really good because they didn't know about the other ones before. But still, I mean, it's a big change. There's no like there's not as much of a trade is what I'm trying to say than there was before, which is obvious to everyone, but like you know what I'm saying. What do you think? Do you think that it's better now with a faster trade? I mean, obviously, do you think that what do you think that what effect do you think that has on our society today? How do you think that changes being able to have such fast change of like information and goods and services going so quickly from area to area? What effect do you think that has on our politics, our beliefs, our ideas, our like thoughts? What do you think that does to us? Like, what do you think? How do you think that influences us differently than it did before? Not only because before we didn't know about the Americas, but also because just thinking that it is a difference because now we have much more. Like, what do you think is the difference in ideas and thoughts and mind process and politics now in different to what it was like before, and how do you think that affects us as a people? Like, how do you think that affects our just our normal way of life and our ideas? And I know I'm repeating myself a lot here, but like you know what I mean. So another thing I wanted to talk about was the triangle slave trade, or just the triangle, or just the triangular trade, if that's depending on how you learned it. It's also one of the most famous trades in goods. I mean, goods that could be kind of offensive to some people. In things, well, what was considered goods back then. I'm sorry. How do you think that changes? As you could see they had from Europe and from England mainly manufactured goods, things they built in things they built in factories because the British really had the control over those factories. And luxuries and like tea, or well, not tea, well, yeah, tea, because it came from Asia and then it went to North America, like tea, like uh books, closets, whatever, things like that. And then back from North America and the Caribbean islands, there's a lot of raw materials like whale oil, lumber, furs from the north, rice, silk, indigo, tobacco from the plant fields of the south, and sugar, molasses, and wood from the Caribbean islands. Um, and then from Africa, there's a lot of like guns, cloth, iron, beer, gold, ivory, spices, hardwoods, and well, that's England to Africa is guns, cloth, iron, beer, and then Africa to England is hardwoods, gold, ivory, all the luxurious resources of Africa going to Europe, especially the gold, as you know, like Mansa Musa, the golden empires of Ghana and things like that, and slaves to the Caribbeans where they would get trained. That's why there's the majority of the peoples of the Caribbean islands right now are black because of the slave trade. And the Caribbean islands to America, mainly slaves to the south and slaves to the north as well, not as many. sugar and molasses. And this is in the early 1800s, late 1700s, where there's fish, livestock, flour, and lumber to the Caribbean islands, and rum, iron, gunpowder, cloth, and tools. This would sort of define the entirety of the trade system of of the entirety of the trade system of North America and England and Europe for at least a good 100 years until slavery was abolished. So this is also another thing that's really important when you think about it. There's no one watching, which is unfortunate. So I think this is going to be the shortest stream I've done, even though I've only done 2 streams. I think this is going to be the shortest stream I've done, because there's no one here, and the people who are here, the person who is here, isn't talking, isn't answering my questions. So I think that I might have like a few more things to say, but that's it, because my internet isn't working that well anyway. So I think I'm gonna have to leave it there. The connection, what I wanted to say in this episode was the connection between North America, Europe, and Africa, and how Europe was shaped. Like it's the entirety of its economic system was shaped by their trade and the discovery of new lands. The discovery of new lands was what really created Europe as the discovery and trade of new lands was really what created Europe as a major continent, and as the major continent of the world, the one most important continent in the world, because they were the fastest to build ships and travel to places and buy things and go around. And that's the real big message that I wanted to say. And I think if it keeps going like only 2 people at a time, I might just start recording these and then put them out instead of live streaming them, because live streaming them isn't doing anything. So anyway, like I said, I'm just gonna end it here. It's gonna be the only one that I haven't ended abruptly, and I'll see you guys in the next video.